And the 10th of Tevet, when the siege started by the Babylonians, we saw that there was a second siege by the Romans in the second temple, but we commemorate the first date because that's written in the Tanakh, 10th of Tevet. And then, almost half a year later, more than half a year later, and in the Roman period, maybe even 3 years later, finally, after much pain and suffering of famine, and in the Second Temple there was a lot of infighting between the Jews within the siege. The Romans in the Second Temple breached the walls. In the First Temple was the Babylonians, and they breached the walls, and they basically conquered the city. And 3 weeks later, they destroyed the temple. Both temples were destroyed on the 9th of Av. We'll get to the details later. But that's 3 weeks after the 17th of Tammuz. What today is the 13th of Tammuz. It means Thursday, you can't have breakfast. We're very welcoming here, but no breakfast at Thursday. Or lunch, but dinner you'll have triple. I hope. Okay, anyways, that is the structure, and then the final fast for the destruction is on the 3rd of Tishrei, right after Rosh Hashanah. It's called Tzom Gedalia. Gedalia was the leader after the destruction of the first temple, appointed, and very quickly, within a matter of a few months, he was murdered by a Jew, unfortunately, assassinated, political assassination, and that really spelled the final end of the first temple era. And any hope the Jews had of restoring their independence for another 70 years until they came back and built the second temple. We saw last week also that the sages listed 5 things that happened on the 17th of Tammuz, and 5 things happened on the 9th of Av, not just one thing. So far we said the main things, and when it comes to the destruction story, so we have the siege, we have the breach of the walls, we have the temple being destroyed, I didn't write destruction, and we have the murder. Those are the 4 things, which are the major, one each. But on each of these days, we have a very long historical memory. It goes back even way back before temple times, 1,500 years. That's what we figured out last time. We actually have the timeline on the top of the page. There was something that happened, according to our tradition, on the same, I'll make a different color so that you don't get confused. The golden calf was, Moshe came down and saw the golden calf on the 17th of Tammuz, shattered the luchot, and our tradition works it out that it's exactly 40 days after the revelation at Sinai, and that's another earlier destruction which we commemorate on the same day. Perhaps the roots of our downfall later on is in this ancient story of the golden calf, and on Tisha B'Av, our sages tell us that this was the day that the spies came back and Jewish people sinned with the report that the land that we can't go up and it's too strong, and because of that sin, Boker Tov, Jake, meet Rabbi Menachem listening.
Not yet fully, but very soon. Thank you. Thank you.
In this room, anyways. Baruch Hashem. Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Shmuel, how you doing? Good, good. You meet Jake? Jake, meet Shmuel. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And Yisrael from across the street. He lives across the street. He wasn't born there. I think he was born in Hong Kong, right? So that's a little far. Anyways, back to our story. The ancient roots of the destruction of 9th Av was with the sin of the spies. The decree was made that the Jews people have to essentially die out in 40 years in the desert and get replaced with the next generation that is going to go into the land of Israel. But so we have the days associated with the destruction. We have the original roots, And then there's, in the 5 things, we have 3 more that have to do with the destruction. The Tamid sacrifice, the daily sacrifice, was stopped on that day, even before they destroyed the temple. The Torah was burned. We don't know exactly by who. There was an idol put up in the temple. We don't know exactly by who, but these are 3 more things that are listed in the Mishnah. And here too, there are 3 more things listed in the Mishnah. Of course, the second temple was destroyed on the same day. And Beitar and Jerusalem being plowed over is an extension of about 100 years, about 65 years after the second temple was destroyed. There was an attempt by Bar Kokhba and the Jews of the time to reestablish independence, throw off the yoke of the Roman Empire. It was not successful. They killed Bar Kokhba, they destroyed Beitar, which was a big, big city with thousands and tens of thousands of Jews, and they plowed Jerusalem over just to make sure that we don't get any ideas of restarting our independence. So these are the 5 things, 4 plus 1, 4 plus 1, both on the 17th of Tammuz and 9th of Av. This is the structure that we covered last week in chapter 6. Any questions on that before we continue? So, as we are on the 13th of Tammuz, I think, it's heating up. It's heating up. The heat is turning on, not just the summer heat of the sun, but we're going to get into a little bit of mourning mode, and we have to learn some of the laws. So there's 2 bookends to this period. I always like to have the vision of the future. First of all, we said that, it says in the Navi Zechariah, he said that these days, that these 4 fast days, the fast of the 4th, this is the 4th month, Tammuz, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, the fast of the 5th, the fast of the, 9th, and the 6th, I forget which months these are. This is the 7th month, and this is the Tishri Cheshvan Kislev Tevet. This is the 10th of the 10th, right? All these fasts, they called them by the name of the months, they will turn into festivals. So, who knows? Could be we'll be partying on Thursday. So, you never know. Could happen. When it happens, we're going to party instead of fasting. But for now, barring unforeseen circumstances, we've been doing this for quite a few years now, this morning ritual. So there's rules. But anyways, the point is to really focus on the end. All of these customs of mourning, of sadness, historical memory about the destruction, and being really serious about what caused it, they come to an end on the 9th of Av. Right? It's 3 weeks from the 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av, and then it's over. The 10th of Av, there might be a little bit more mourning left, but then we're free. Then it's time to rebuild. It's time to look towards the future. We can't mourn all day long and all year long. There's a story actually in the Talmud. It's a very powerful story. Rabbi Yeshua took care of business. There was a group of really pious Jews. And after the destruction of the temple, this is after the second temple times, Rabbi Yeshua was a Tana, second generation of Tanaim. That's the period of the sages. It was right after the temple was destroyed in year 70. Rabbi Yeshua lived around then, maybe year 100. Of course, there's a range there. Anyways, this group, you know what they decided to do? They said, okay, we're not going to eat any meat or wine, drink any wine anymore. Ever. So we're going to become vegans, and we're going to become, what's that called when you don't drink wine? I don't know. Teetotaler. Yeah, why not? They said, well, how can we bear eating meat when there's no meat being burnt on the altar? This was a very temple-centered Judaism at the time of the temple. And they just felt we can't just go on with life. And wine, of course, was, what's that called? The wine that was put on the altar? It's called a It's English.
Libation.
Libation. And in Hebrew? Nesach. Very good. Nesach. So no more nesachim, no more wine on the altar. So we won't have any wine. No more meat and wine. Rabbi Yeshua said, let me talk to them. Because he realized that that's right. How are they going to celebrate? But they felt we can't celebrate. We can't live our lives with it. We can't ignore that. So yeah, we started already with the end. We know that Napoleon came. It was one day a year. They sat on the floor, and we do that. But anyways, he says to them, "Listen to this. Why aren't you, my dear friends? Why aren't you having meat?" He says, "Well, how can we eat meat when there's no meat on the altar? Why aren't you drinking wine?" He said, "Well, how can we be having wine when there's no wine for God? Why should we partake of wine? It's not fair. It's not the right thing to do. We can't be callous and ignore the destruction." So he said, "Okay, well, that's beautiful. Yeah, I understand the sentiment." But then he says to them, "How can you have fruit either?" Because there were fruits brought to the temple, the first fruits. They thought for a second, and they said, "All right, we're going to man up. No fruits either. We'll have vegetables, we'll have rice, whatever." So then he said to them, "How can you have bread?" There was bread in the temple service. There were the showbreads every week, 12 loaves. And part of the sacrifices was you brought breads, a sacrifice of Todah, had lots of bread. So they said, "Okay, we won't have any bread. Yeah, we'll eat rice. Who needs bread, right? So we can't go on with life." And then he pulls out the ace. He says, "Do you know that in the temple that there was a sacrifice of water once a year on Sukkot? There was a nesach, there's a special libation of water. So gotta be consistent." So now they turn back to Rabbi Yeshua and they say, "So help us. Get us out of this. We stuck our foot in it, essentially. What are we going to do? I don't know. We can't go on." Rabbi Yeshua said to them, "You're right. You can't go on with life like it's nothing. Nothing has happened. A terrible tragedy. Judaism changed forever, for a long time anyways. But we can't stop life. God wants us to live. He wants us to be productive. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be healthy. And so this is what you do." He says, "You're going to go on and you're going to live and you're going to get married and you're going to have children. You're going to eat and drink and have festivals. But there's three things that you have to do to commemorate the destruction. One law is that whenever you get married, you break a glass. And whenever you build a house, you leave a certain portion of the house, of the wall near the door, unplastered. You don't plaster the whole house, so it'll be a noticeable sign, so that you can see it all the time and remember the destruction." And the third thing he says is that actually, when a woman puts on her jewelry, apparently there was, in those days, it was much more formal. There was like 18 pieces of jewelry, or 14, I can't remember what it was. Yeah. We're lucky nowadays, just one ring, okay, one necklace, some earrings, whatever. But most people don't have 14. But anyways, they said when a woman gets dressed up fancy, she has to leave off one piece of jewelry. The first one, what did I say, was about breaking a glass? That's a different Gemara. The first one was when you have a meal. Also, the meals were very regimented. You have all the different pieces of the meal. Like nowadays, what do we have at a fancy meal? You have 3 courses, right? You have the entree, and then you've got the maybe 5-course meal, right? If you have a really fancy one, and then you have the soup, and then you have the right, and then the dessert, and then so you leave off one of those items of the standard celebratory, formal, the menu, you leave off the menu one of these items. And that's the way we commemorate Jerusalem. So basically, he was teaching them, of course, we commemorate Jerusalem, but we got to go on with life. So here too, after Tisha B'Av, we're going to go back to our regular scheduled programming in terms of the customs of mourning and remembering Jerusalem. We remember Jerusalem every day. Where do we remember Jerusalem every day? In Birkat Hamazon, we talk about Jerusalem every day, compassion of Jerusalem. Where else? In the Day of Jerusalem. Jerusalem Day? That's new, that we're celebrating coming back to Jerusalem. It's true. But is there anything else we do every day that helps us come back? In the Shemona Esrei, we pray for the rebuilding of Jerusalem, of course, 3 times a day. And every time we eat bread, right? After the grace after the meals. So there's lots of remembering of Jerusalem. And the truth is, in my home, I have a little, near the front door, I have a little square. Well, I actually don't have a square unplastered. What I have is a picture of Jerusalem. In many homes, they have a picture of Jerusalem, and that's a commemoration. Based on this Gemara that says you should leave it unplastered. Some people actually have an amma by an amma. It's about, half a meter by half a meter, and you'll see it in the entrance of their homes. That's to commemorate Jerusalem. And we break a glass at the wedding, as I mentioned. This is from a different Gemara, based on a different Gemara. So we do recall Jerusalem a lot, but we don't hold back from celebrations. We party, we have weddings, we eat meat, and we drink wine. So what exactly do we do beyond that? All year long, we commemorate Jerusalem. There's more things that we do during this period. This period where the bookends are, of course, the 4 days we fast, including 10th of Tevet, even though it's months away, and the 3rd of Tishrei, even though it's not connected. But the main period is these 3 weeks between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av, and we have some customs of mourning in increasing intensity until Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the height of the intensity of the mourning. We actually do sit on the floor and weep, and we don't eat and drink for the entire day. But we'll see that there's an entire process leading up to that. But after Tisha B'Av, it's over. After Tisha B'Av, we go back to the regular scheduled programming. As I said, the rest of the year, we do sing and dance and have weddings and eat meat and wine. And we, of course, remember Jerusalem in our prayers, and we remember Jerusalem, and we do what we can to rebuild Jerusalem. That's what we're all doing here, is learning Torah in Jerusalem. It's part of the rebuilding process. But so we never forget Jerusalem. But the intense mourning period has an end to it. So, but as a start too. The start, 17th of Tammuz, this Thursday, B'ezras Hashem. So we have to talk about the fast day of the 17th of Tammuz, which is different rules from the fast day of the 9th of Av. We already said last week that there's, of these 4, which is the most severe? Yeah, this one. The other 3 are called minor fasts, and Tisha B'Av is the major one. Tisha B'Av, in many ways, we're going to find parallels between that and the fast, which is not mentioned here, because it's not a fast of destruction. It's the fast of... You should realize, this fast of Yom Kippur is the only one that's Deoraita. Who can tell me what Deoraita means? Tisha B'Av, with its severity, doesn't even come close to the severity of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is biblical, we have to fast. The rabbis instituted this fast. It's mentioned in the Tanakh, and we're going to see that it's a major fast. It's much more severe than the other 3, but it's not as severe as Yom Kippur. So we have 3 levels. We have the minor fasts, 1, 2, and 4. Also, that includes another minor fast, which we don't even have on the board yet. We'll put it over here. The fast of Esther, excellent, which is not about mourning whatsoever. It's actually part of the celebration. It's a commemorative fasting. We'll talk about that before Purim. So these minor days all have the same laws, and then Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av have mostly the same laws, but of course you can be more flexible on Tisha B'Av as opposed to Yom Kippur because it's not biblical, it's only rabbinically mandated. We talked about that there's levels of obligations, very important to recognize that in Jewish halakha. It's one of the first things, most important lessons I learned when I was becoming a rabbi. My rabbi taught me. Said, first thing is to, when you're discussing an issue, someone asks you a question, you want to know what's the halakha, what's the halakha. First determine, are we dealing with a biblical mitzvah or prohibition, or is it rabbinic? Because we invest a lot of time and effort in keeping all of the rabbinic laws, just as much as the biblical laws. But when push comes to shove, there's always a balance. There's always other values which are going to come up. And when it's a rabbinic law, then you can be more flexible than if you have a biblical law. So it's important to recognize these levels of authority of the various mitzvot. Anyways, so there's an entire chapter about the laws of the minor fasts, and then a separate chapter about the laws of Tisha B'Av. So those are two other chapters, and then those are the bookends. We're starting off with Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, which is a minor fast. We end off 3 weeks later with a major fast. So there's a chapter about the laws of this fast, a chapter of the laws of this fast, and then there is the time in between. It's called the 3 weeks. The 3 weeks in between, there's another chapter on that. So we have 3 chapters of Torah to learn about what the customs are regarding the minor fasts, regarding the 3 weeks in between, and then finally regarding Tisha B'Av. Actually, regarding Tisha B'Av, there's I think 3 chapters, or two and a half. We'll see. But of course, the severity makes sense that the laws of Tisha B'Av was just 1 chapter. Maybe there's one about the day before Tisha B'Av, which is 9 and 10. That's it. 2 chapters about Tisha B'Av, and then the customs is really okay. So what should we do first? The minor fast, right? Because that's what's coming up this Thursday. What are the laws of the minor fast? Everybody open up the book, please, to page 127. Can I get a l'chaim? L'chaim. L'chaim. Okay, Shmuel. Chapter 127, chapter 7. You ready?
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. The minor fast. The status of the minor fast today. When the prophets instituted the 4 fasts after the destruction of the first temple, they modeled them after the fast of Yom Kippur. This is how the sages usually enact decrees, modeling them after the Torah's commandments. Just as Yom Kippur lasts an entire day, evening to evening, so too they instituted the 4 fasts as full day fasts. Just as there are 5 prohibitions on Yom Kippur: eating and drinking, bathing, anointing oneself, wearing leather shoes, and engaging in sexual relations, so too they prohibited these things from the fast over the destruction of the temple. This is how Jews observed these fasts throughout the 70-year Babylonian exile. When the exiles returned from Babylonia to build the second temple, these fasts were cancelled and transformed into holidays. It says, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month in Tammuz, the fast of the 5th month from the Hubab, the fast of the 7th month from the Somar Galiah, the fast of the 10th month, 10th of Tibet, shall become occasions of joy and gladness, happy festivals for the house of Judah. You must love honesty and integrity." Zechariah 8:19. When the second temple was destroyed, however, Jews reverted to observing these fasts, continuing to do so throughout the difficult years following the destruction of the second temple, during which Bar Kokhba's rebellion and the destruction of Beit-El in Judea took place. Thus, the status of these fasts depends on our national situation. At a time of evil decrees and persecution, we are obligated to fast. When the temple is standing, these fasts and days of joy and in an intermediate situation, when on the one hand the temple is ruined, but on the other hand there are no harsh decrees against us, as was the case during Rabbi Yehuda and Nasi's lifetime, the status of these fasts depends on the will of the Jewish people. They want to fast, they fast. They don't want, they don't fast. And this applies to Asar Tevet, Shiva Asar Tammuz, and Tzom Galeah. Tisha B'Av, however, does not depend on the nation's vote, and everyone is obligated to fast, even in such an intermediate situation. There's misfortune abounded through, and both temples were destroyed on that day. In practice, the Jewish people observe all the fasts, even in the intermediate situation, and therefore all Jews are obligated to fast on these days. This halakha applies until the temple is rebuilt, speedily nowadays. When the first days will become days of joy and anxiety.
I don't know if you noticed, but there's a little wrinkle here. Some people nowadays, after the creation of the state of Israel, got all excited and said, hey, Tisha B'Av, until the temple is built, we're going to fast. And maybe we don't have to do the other three. Maybe we don't have to do fasting on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. We're coming back to the land of Israel. Especially when the war was over. Peace. We're in Jerusalem and gathering the exiles. This is not a time of war. This is a time of peace. Obviously, we get reminded every once in a while that we haven't reached the final peace yet. But there's some people, some rabbis, suggested that maybe we don't have to fast those minor fasts in our day, because we're sort of on the road towards, it's not like we're in Babylon anymore. We're not in Rome. We're not scattered. We're returning. Most of the rabbis, though, said, who are you kidding? We're not there yet. And as much as we're happy that we came back to the land of Israel and we have hope, a lot of hope for the future, we're on the right path. It's unbelievable. We're so privileged to live in such an era. We see these prophecies coming to life. Of course, we celebrate them, but at the same time, we're not yet at the level of peace. There's a longer discussion in terms of how to interpret the words of the Talmud, what exactly it means, what exactly is the criteria for this intermediate period. But the bottom line is today, I don't know of any Orthodox rabbi who does not fast on the minor fasts. We're going to see that they're only half a day. It's only 12 hours, not 24 hours. But we still fast those fast days, even though we're a little closer to the redemption than we were 100 years ago. A lot closer. Okay.
And Weinberg, it says in the beginning of the chapter, that they instituted 4 fasts, full fasts.
That was during the 70-year exile. Zachariah, I'd like to ask you to get up off of your seat and come onto the board and write the number 70 where the exile took place. You see a timeline at the top of the board?
Right.
Where was the Babylonian exile? The 70 years during which all 4 fasts were full 25 hours. But when they came back in the Second Temple period, basically they didn't fast any of the fasts except for Tisha B'Av. There's a debate about it. But and then so where is it? Yosef, is he right?
First temple between the first and second.
Between first and second temple, that's where the Babylonian exile was for 70 years. Well done. Thank you, Shmuel. So, in that period, it was 24 hours, Shmuel. But afterwards, in the second temple, they didn't fast at all. And after the second temple, so then it's a question whether or not that original institution to fast kicked back in. And the standard understanding is it kicked it back in, but only with this division between Tisha B'Av and the minor days, the other fasts. Okay? Let's discuss that on page 129. Okay, Israel? Got it? Avi, we read for us, please, 129, number 2.
The laws of the minor fast. As we learn, since we are no longer suffer from hardship and religious persecution, and on the other hand, the Holy Temple civilian ones. The status of the minor fast firmly depend on the will of the Jewish people. Just as the very obligation to fast depends on Israel's desire, so do the other laws of the fast. And when the Jews accepted upon themselves to fast during these intermediate periods, they did not agree to treat these fasts as strictly as they treat Yom Kippur. This is the fundamental difference between the three minor fasts and Tisha B'Av. Because so many hardships befell us on the ninth of Av, we are obligated to fast on that day during an intermediate period, and it's remained as originally established. This means that the fast lasts for an entire 24-hour day and includes prohibitions on bathing, applying ointments, wearing shoes, and engaging in sexual relations, just like a woman before. However, the laws of the other fasts that were instituted as a result of the destruction of the temple are more lenient. We find only during the daytime.
We fast. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We fast only during the daytime, and we are only prohibited from eating and drinking. We do not refrain from bathing, anointing oneself, wearing shoes, or engaging in sexual relations. Another difference is that pregnant and nursing women must fast on Tisha B'Av. Only illness renders one exempt. On the three minor fasts, however, even pregnant and nursing women who are not ill are exempt from fasting, because the Jewish people originally accepted upon themselves to fast in these days. They were lenient with regard to pregnant and nursing women.
Keep going.
Preferably, one should be stringent and refrain from bathing in hot water during the minor fast. But one may bathe in lukewarm water for purposes of cleanliness. During the fast, it is also inappropriate to cut one's hair and listen to joyous music or shop for things that make one happy.
Okay, so I like to, it's easy to remember this way, and everybody likes to talk about sex. So I like to say people don't realize that according to Judaism, there's really only one day a year that you're not allowed to have sex. It's pretty good. That's Yom Kippur. And rabbinically, 2 days. Because Tisha B'Av has the status of Yom Kippur. And so 2 days a year, that's so bad. 363 days out of 365 days a year, you're allowed. Of course, depends if your wife is menstruating or not, if she's nida, there are prohibitions, but essentially, it's a wonderful thing to have relations, and it's a mitzvah to satisfy your wife and to have joy in the home. It's a wonderful thing. So essentially, there's only 2 days a year that you're not allowed to have sex. Of course, every woman has her own cycle, and there's, like when she's menstruating. It's not all of her life, but it can get more complicated. We'll talk about that in another class. This is a class about the fasts. But this element, I just wanted to point that out. There's really only 2 days a year that you're forbidden from sexual relations, according to Jewish law. All right? Okay, so the minor fast, the major thing, of course, is that you only just don't eat and drink. And the second thing is when somebody's ill. And pregnant or nursing women, they're not ill, but they're taking care of a baby. And so the halacha is very lenient about that. Of course, you can see there's a long footnote. In the footnote, he mentions what I mentioned, that since the state of Israel was established, some people talked about it, but the bottom line is that we fast on the minor fast as well, even though it's much easier than Tisha B'Av. Shall we continue? I think we shall also put on the air conditioning. What do you think about that? That's a good idea. Yes, Avi, go ahead.
I bought my first car during the 4 weeks, and I got told a week later. And it was the worst luck. Like every day I drove the car, someone hit it, something happened. And after that, I don't buy anything ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're jumping ahead to the customs of the 3 weeks, right? This period. In between, there are some customs, and that is not to buy new things. because when you buy new things, you're supposed to make a bracha shechianu. And how can you say about this time, which is essentially associated with destruction, we're so happy to live and see this time? No, we're not. And so there is a custom, we'll see later. Most poskim say you shouldn't go shopping and buy new things, which you're going to have to say shechianu about. Now, we don't say shechianu on shoes, but and sometimes you need something new, so that we're going to see that there's workarounds. But you're saying you were divinely punished.
Yeah.
Wow.
To buy it.
Who told you?
My mom.
Your mom.
Said, wait. And I was like, no, I want this car. I saved up since I was like 13.
Oh my gosh.
I got the car. And we got to
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a lesson. Good. Okay. Let's continue. We're still going though in order. So we're going to go talk about the fast, because that's coming first. And the laws of the 3 weeks, we'll talk about them afterwards. Okay, so let's talk, but basically getting ready for Thursday. Okay. Yosef, you read for us 132?
The duration of the manifest. Manifest comes on Alok Ashar until Tzeit Chadim, when the 3 medium stars are visible in the sky. There are different opinions as to when exactly Alok Ashar occurs. Either when the first light begins on when the sun is 17.5 degrees below the horizon, or a short time later, when the eastern part of the sky is illuminated. The sun is 16.1 degrees.
Well, we can't even agree about when the fast starts. But it's about 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning. That's the translation of what it says. But basically, there is if you're up that early, you deserve to get the lenient one and be able to eat. And it's a rabbinic law, so we can be lenient. And so the later time is when you have to start the fast. I'll get you the specific details. Maybe it says here on the page right in front of me. It says here, 17th of Tammuz. Doesn't say when it starts. Here maybe it says, no. Come on. They used to have all the halachic times in here. Like I said, it's about 4:30 in the morning. But I don't know why they didn't have it. Should be, but I can't see it. Alot HaShachar. Here it is. It actually doesn't have it. It's around 4:15. Sunrise is very early. Sunrise is 5:36, 5:38. Sunrise. So about an hour before that, it's 4:30. That's when the fast starts. Okay, don't want to get bogged down in details. Continue. Who's reading? Yes, sir.
There are also two corner opinions about when Tzeit Chadim first. Either when the experts or those with excellent eyesight can see 3 stars, and the sun is 4.8 degrees below the horizon, or when average people can see 3 stars, and the sun is 6.2 degrees below the horizon. It's a common.
Wow. So when does the fast end? Right? What does Tzeit HaKochavim mean? Tzeit? Latzeit? Yitzia? What's it mean? Go out. Kochavim, what's Kochavim?
Stars.
Stars. When the stars come out. So when do the stars come out? Well, they come out, they're always out. When can you see the stars? Depends where you are. Depends, season. In any case, there's different opinions about that. When do the stars go out? Who knows? Give me another example of why it's important to know when the night has begun. You have to say the Shema at that time, the nighttime Shema. What else? Shabbat finishes, exactly. We could say Havdalah, take out Shabbat. When Shabbat finishes. So when did Shabbat finish last night? Who can remember what happened last night? 8:24? I had 8:31. I don't know. 8:32. That's around there. Depends exactly what elevation you are and so forth, but about 8:30. But hang on, there's different ways of calculating. And the truth is, that is a very machmir. Machmir, what does that mean? Strict. That is a very machmir opinion. We follow it because Shabbat is deoraita. What does the right to mean?
The Torah.
Biblical, from the Torah. So we're machmir about matters from the Torah. So really, 831 or 832 is a stringency. When it comes to a rabbinic law, like the fasts of the 17th of Tammuz, even the fast of Tisha B'Av, we're lenient. And the fast will be over by about 10 after 8. Quarter after 8. 15 minutes less. Nice. 15 minutes less. Because there's different opinions exactly how to calculate Tzeit HaKochavim, the coming out of the stars. When does the night for sure begin? We're lenient when it comes to rabbinic laws, and we're machmir when it comes to biblical law. Shabbat is a biblical law. Like Yom Kippur, we said it's a biblical law. We're machmir. But when it comes to Tisha B'Av or the 17th of Tammuz, we're going to be able to eat already by 8:15, something like that. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't have it on this page. Maybe I just can't see it. It's got to be here somewhere, but they're falling down on the job. I don't know. Somebody has to take them to task.
Well, I think he said, I haven't put it there, but my daughter showed me.
You show it to me. You find it for me.
Question number,
It says there when it ends, but it doesn't say when it starts.
what qualifies as a harsh decree?
Well, the destruction of the temple is pretty harsh.
But I mean,
Can't get much harsher. That's what they mean. Yeah. Anyways, so we're gonna skip the next. Skip to number 4. Skip the next page because we can't. We don't have time for everything. 134, page 134. Eating and drinking before dawn, right? Because the fast starts in the morning. So if you get up early, you can eat. So you read for us, Jake.
Eating and drinking before dawn. Even though the fast starts at Alot HaShachar, one's prohibition to eat sometimes begins the night before. Namely, if one had in mind not to eat anymore before the fast, it is considered as if he accepted the fast upon himself, and he may not eat anymore. Therefore, if one went to sleep the night before fast and woke up before dawn, he may not eat, since he had already taken his mind off of eating. However, if he stipulates mentally before going to sleep that he will eat if he wakes up before dawn, he may eat, because he has not yet accepted the fast upon himself. This applies to eating. With regard to drinking, however, the poskim disagree. According to Rema, one may drink before dawn, even if he had not explicitly stipulated before going to sleep that he would do so, because many people drink with water when they wake up. Therefore, it is as if he had in mind to drink if he wakes up before dawn. Shulchan Aruch 5641. However, it maintains that there is no difference between eating and drinking, and only one who stipulates before going to sleep that he will drink some water when he wakes up before dawn may do so. In practice, one who wants to drink before the fast begins should stipulate mentally that he will do so. But bed diavad, one who wakes up before dawn and is thirsty may drink, even if he failed to stipulate this.
All right. So what it's talking about is that the fast really begins in the morning, but you can mess yourself up. If you go to sleep and you're saying, all right, I'm going to get up at 6. I want a breakfast. And then you, by accident, wake up at 3 in the morning. Because that happen, Avi? Could that happen to you? They wake up at 3 in the morning? And then you say, whoa, my gosh, it's a fast day. Let me have a nice sandwich now, or let's have a bowl of cereal. Something to eat, because later I won't be able to. Too late. Because the very fact that you went to sleep, assuming that you're fasting the next day, it's as if you started the fast in your mind. So you got to be careful. This is something I try to do, make a mental note every night before the fast. In case I wake up, I'm allowed to eat until the morning. If you make that stipulation, you're good to go. Sometimes I do get up early, and then that makes especially in this fast, which is in the summertime, it's a very long 12 hours. It's actually 13 to 14 hours, because it's all daylight. Daylight's longer in the summertime. So
when is sunrise?
that's what sunrise is 5:36. 5:38 is going to be on Thursday. But we do an hour before that, dawn. Approximately an hour. That's what I was looking for, the precise number, which doesn't appear. But it's around 4:15. So if you wake up before 4:15, and you had in mind the night before that I'm going to wake up before 4:15, and then you can have as much as you want, eat a nice big meal at 4 in the morning, and then you'll be okay the rest of the day until 8:15 at night. Cold pizza. All right. Bachelor pad here. Okay. Yeah. So you got that. In terms of drinking, you can be more lenient if you do get up and you didn't stipulate. You can still drink until 4:15 or whatever it is. Okay, so we're getting ready for fasting. This is fun. You know, the worst part of fasting is that we still have class. Well, that's the best part. We still have shiur. We don't shiur him in the afternoon. By afternoon, people already are getting tired. It gets hotter, so we give people time to sleep and rest. But in the morning, we have regular classes because you ate last night. Just no breakfast. You can have class with no breakfast. So we're going to have class, just no tea. The hardest is on me. I talk and can't drink. But question is, and this is difficult in yeshiva in particular, or if you're married, and that is, so you're not allowed to drink. What about brushing your teeth? It says here in number 5, page 135. Lechatchila. Now, what does the word lechatchila mean?
Performance are low.
In the first place, or the ideal performance is one should not wash his mouth on the minor fasts, because where there's concern, one might swallow drops of water. However, one who knows that he has bad breath may wash out his mouth, because he's no intention to drink, only to clean his mouth. Still, he should be very careful not to swallow any water. One may use toothpaste in order to clean his mouth up thoroughly and remove bad breath. Here you have it, folks. No excuses. No bad breath for your neighbors, for your friends, for your roommates. You're allowed to brush your teeth on the minor fasts. On Tisha B'Av, which is a more stringent fast, there is an additional problem of washing oneself. Right? You're not allowed to eat and drink, but you're also not allowed to bathe. Well, washing, that includes washing your mouth. Therefore, one should be more stringent on Tisha B'Av, and unless it is very necessary, one should not rinse his mouth. Only one who would be greatly distressed may wash his mouth and brush his teeth without toothpaste, even on Yom Tisha B'Av. Yom Kippur, however, when one must fast by Torah law, one may not be lenient in this regard. So, as we said before, there's levels of severity. Yom Kippur is the most severe. Tisha B'Av, ideally, you should have the same laws. Yom Kippur only when pressing need can you be lenient. But the minor fasts, it's much easier to be lenient. And brush your teeth, please. Tisha B'Av, do whatever you like because there's no class. All right, then you won't be near me. So that's all I care about. I don't know about your roommate, but all right. What happens? Has this ever happened to you that you're fasting and then you walk by and for some reason, oh, look at that, there's some wafers. So, I'm actually hungry and you have some wafers. Yeah. I'm supposed to be fasting. I forgot. Or you get thirsty. You forget sometimes. What do you do? Throw it up. Oh, yeah. Whew. Serious stuff. I don't think the halacha requires you to do that, although I see the logic in that. I don't think once it's done, it's done. No, but the question is, really, well, now I broke my fast already. Let's finish the package. Now I can eat more, right? Because I'm not fasting. Fasting is the whole all or nothing. So what does he say? That's on page 136. Okay, Stephen, 136, you read for us?
Yeah.
136.
One who forgets that he is really a fast day. One who accidentally eats or drinks on a fast day must continue fasting, because this day was instituted as fast day due to the distress that we experience on them. Even if one eats or drinks enough to be viewed as having broken his fast, and thus may no longer recite Amenu in the Amida, as we explained in section 10 below. The prohibition of eating and drinking is still applied to him. After all, one who committed one transgression is not then permitted to commit further transgression. Ruth 5:6 verse 1. In such a case, one does not need to make up the fast on a different day because we are obligated to fast specifically on the days that the sages established for fasting. Despite this, some people have a custom to accept upon themselves another fast to atone for the fast that they broke. One is not obligated to do so. Mishnah Berurah 568 verse 8. It's better to atone by giving more charity and studying more Torah. The posting disagree about the case of one who forgets that he is fasted. Recite a bracha over a cup of water and then remember to fast it. Some say that one is prohibited to recite a bracha in vain, vatala, by the Torah law, while drinking on the fast day is a rabbinic enactment. Therefore, it is preferable to take a small drink in order to prevent oneself from violating the prohibition of reciting a bracha nevatala. Others maintain that since most Rishonim maintain that reciting bracha in vain is a rabbinic prohibition, it is better not to drink at all. In addition, it is improper to correct one transgression by committing another one. It seems that one should follow this approach.
This is interesting, especially as we spent the last few weeks studying the laws of brachot. We say you don't say a bracha in vain. You're saying God's name in vain. What happens if it's a fast day and you're really thirsty and you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'akol niyu b'dvaro, and then you remember, I'm not allowed to drink. You've already said the bracha. So here there's a debate. You don't want to be made, if you don't drink, then you've said a bracha in vain. And if you do drink, you're drinking on the fast day. Either way, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. What's the best? So there's a debate. What's the best thing to do? He comes on the side that you should not drink. Because what are you going to correct a rabbinic problem with another rabbinic problem? So, if you're... For sure, you should say Baruch Shem Kol Malchuto Olam Va'ed. If you're not going to drink, then you say the correcting sentence that we learned about Baruch Shem Kol Malchuto Olam Va'ed is after you say God's name, at least you bless Him, and that's the best you can do. But that's an interesting case. In any case, the concept people get mixed up with that, and they say, well, if I broke my fast anyways, I might as well chow down and get a burger. No. The idea is the community is fasting as a community. So you broke it, you forgot. You have the rest of the day. You'll join the community with the rest of the day. Officially, you haven't done the complete fast, and that's why he mentions here, we're going to see that there's something you add in the prayers if you're fasting. You can't do that anymore because you ate. But you're not allowed to eat and drink with the rest of the community until the day is done. Okay? Sick people, number seven, moving right along. Now, I assume we can skip number 8 because you're not pregnant or nursing. Maybe your wives are. But number 7, there's other types of feeling unwell, and that's being sick. Believe it or not, it's happened to me that I got some kind of a stomach bug on a fast day. Or I had a cold, or a fever. And now it's a fast day. What do you do? Let's see what he says. Page 137. Zachariah, number 7.
Sick people are exempt from fasting. The prophets and sages instituted the fast for healthy people, not for sick people. In this, Yom Kippur differs from all other fasts. In Yom Kippur, even sick people must fast as the Torah commands. Only those whose lives may be at risk if they fast are exempt, since saving life overrides the first command. On the other fasts, however, which were instituted by the sages, anyone who is sick is exempt from fasting, even if his condition is not life-threatening. In general, one is considered sick if his pain or weakness prevents him from continuing his normal routine of life, forcing him to lie down. For example, those who suffer from the flu, angina, or high fever do not need to fast. Almost everyone experiences headaches and weakness on fast days. Most people find it easier to spend the day in bed than to continue to function normally. Sometimes one who is fasting feels even worse than one who has the flu. Nonetheless, this is not considered a sickness, but rather the natural effects of fasting, which pass within a few hours after the fast is over. Therefore, only one who needs to lie down because of an illness is exempt from fasting. One who who's suffering from the fast itself, however, must continue to fast even if he prefers to lie down in bed due to his weakness. One is only exempt from the fast if he becomes so weak from fasting that he actually becomes ill. In addition, anyone who knows that fasting may cause him to become sick does not need to fast. For example, one who suffers from an active ulcer, severe migraines, is exempt from fasting because it is liable to precipitate his illness. Similarly, a weak person who knows that there is a good chance that he will become ill if he doesn't eat is exempt from fasting. Diabetics who take insulin do not need to fast and are even exempt from fasting on Yom Kippur. Those who have kidney stones thus need to drink large quantities of water, are exempt from fasting. One who has high blood pressure is not considered sick and should fast unless the doctor instructs them otherwise. Whenever one's in doubt, one should consult a God-fearing doctor. One who is exempt from fasting because of an illness may, l'chachila, eat a full meal and drink as much as he needs starting from the morning, but it is inappropriate for him to indulge in delicacies. He need not ration his food into very small quantities. The sick person might be instructed to do on Yom Kippur because sick people are simply not obligated to fast on fast days of rabbinic providence. It is only on Yom Kippur when fasting is mandated by Torah law that even sick people must fast. But the sages ruled stringently that those who are dangerously ill and need to eat must do so in quantities smaller than the threshold of punishment, if possible, to avoid breaking the fast. It is important to note that sick people who need to take medication regularly, like one who has started a regimen of antibiotics or one suffering from a chronic disease, must continue taking the medication even on fast day. If possible, one should swallow the medication without water. It should be noted that almost no medication, including antibiotics, does any harm to anyone who swallows it without water. One who cannot swallow pills without water should add something bitter to the water to the point that it becomes undrinkable and is used as pill.
Okay, so what's the law? Do sick people, do they have to fast or not? So it depends. If we're talking about these fasts, all of them, all four of them, versus Yom Kippur.
And how sick that?
Yom Kippur, it's easy. You fast until there's a danger to your life. Easy, it's not easy, but that's easy to conceptually to define. Is there any danger to someone's life that overrides the Torah's law? Right?
He included from the Tanaic stage
that
he had like ulmosis disease and he was allowed to cook on Shabbat.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. And for the sake of saving a life, overrides all the rest of the mitzvot. But if it's not life-threatening, so not life-threatening illness, so then it depends. On Yom Kippur, you gotta suffer it. You gotta, do the best you can. But if it's not life-threatening, you still have to fast. But if it's rabbinic, like all four of these fasts are rabbinic, then the rabbi said, if you're sick, you don't fast. How sick is sick? So he has a nice definition. He says, if you're so sick that you can't function, that's called sick enough. If you just have a little cold, a sniffle, or you have a little headache, that's nothing serious. But if it's something that really, makes you lie down, that you're so sick, like you're in bed, like usually when you have a fever, you're in bed, so then you don't have to fast. He goes to this idea in the middle. You could get sick from fasting, and he says that's not considered to be sick. You're just fasting. But independently of the fasting, if you're so sick that you can't function, then you don't have to fast, and you eat as much as you want, and you don't have to minimize what you eat. The fast does not apply to somebody who's sick. How sick? It's hard to define exactly, but so sick that you can't function is what he says. That's the law. Okay? Got it? Clear? Usually, you would want to ask your rabbi, or now you have the definitions clear. But if there's any case where you're not sure about things, so you ask a question. This is, of course, ask the doctor, but if it's anything dangerous, but also ask your rabbi, because these definitions get a little bit blending into each other. What is, I'm fasting, I'm sick because I'm fasting, or I'm sick independent of the fasting. Hard to make these definitions. sometimes you take counsel. All right, so good. So far, so good. Hopefully, we'll all be healthy. That's the main thing. We're learning these laws just so that we'll be healthy. And you'll be able to tell your friends, if anybody, or somebody, your enemies.
I had a situation last week before where I was on a medication that actually you have to drink a lot of water with.
Yeah.
So because it was like based on like the concentration in your blood, and if you don't drink water, you get
Sure.
dehydrated, the concentration goes like,
Yep.
way too high.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I didn't go to the doctor before, and I asked the rabbi. He's like, "Well, I can't really tell you if you can or cannot drink water. You should have gone to the doctor before." So I ended up doing the rest of the Yom Kippur. I didn't drink water. So it was
Yeah.
barely made it through. I don't know.
Wow. I'll tell you, I had a situation like that, not with me, as a student asked me, some people, I am a rabbi, people ask me questions, and he had a similar situation where he was taking a drug, a course of, that he couldn't break, and he had to eat for the drug to have the right balance of whatever it was, and this was, very expensive drug and very, a unique situation where he's doing this treatment that you have to, very expensive treatment as well, and you have to eat every day the required amount. So he did ask me ahead of time. He knew this was coming, and we actually sat down. We worked out an arrangement. He just mentioned, we're not talking about Yom Kippur now. This really applies to Yom Kippur. But basically, we prepared packages of food, very small packages of food and drink, that he ate throughout the day, but lower than the threshold of what's considered to be actual drinking and eating. That makes you punishable according to the Jewish law. And so he did eat on Yom Kippur, but in minimal amounts, spread over time. So it was not any of the eatings was not a proper meal. So he kept Yom Kippur somewhat. He had to eat because it was a life-threatening thing. That's why he was doing this procedure, because he's trying to get rid of some illness. Anyways, so it does happen. If you're prepared, you can do that. I actually spent some Yom Kippurs, Yemei Kippurim, in the hospital, visiting others, Baruch Hashem. And you see, near there's in Israel, there's a synagogue. There's a shul in the hospital. Lots of patients come, but also the doctors come whenever they're free or whenever it is, and the visitors who are visiting the sick people, they come. Tons and tons of people in Jerusalem, anyways. And outside of the shul, there's a tray filled with little vials, which say this is the minimal amount under the shiur, which makes you liable for punishment. And for those who their doctor and their rabbi told them that they must eat on Yom Kippur, they had pre-prepared these little food packages for them in the minimal amounts. Very cool. So it's like industrial. It's less than 27 grams, and in drink it's less than in drink it's less than what is it? Approximately 37 milliliters, something like that. Yeah.
Like half a ravit, like
less than a ravit and less than a kazai. Actually, for Yom Kippur it's different, but it's a kotevet. Hagasa in Yom Kippur, it's the size of a date, a big date. So there's a little bit different shiurim, but that's the laws of Yom Kippur. When it comes to even Tisha B'Av, you don't have to do that. If you're sick, you eat a full meal on Tisha B'Av. You're so sick that you need to eat, then the fast doesn't apply to you. It's a rabbinic fast. The rabbis didn't institute their enactments for sick people. They instituted them for healthy people. Okay? Kids is interesting. Kids, my kids always wanted to fast. They want to feel big. And I had to tell them, no, you got to eat to be strong. Even though it's Yom Kippur, even though it's Tisha B'Av, even though it's Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. And only the year before they turn bar or bat mitzvah, age of 13, or for women, bat mitzvah is age of 12. The year before, we allow them to prepare and get ready and train, basically. But other than that, Some families have different customs. And the kids, they always compare it with each other. I fasted till 10. I fasted till 11 a.m. Oh, yeah, but I fasted till 12 p.m. Oh, yeah? They don't even know how to tell time at that, yeah, most kids. But anyways, you definitely don't serve them ice cream, right? Like the guy who's eating on Tisha B'Av. He can eat because he's sick, but you don't have ice cream. You don't have chocolate cake. You have food that you need to eat to be healthy, but not luxuries, because even the child is, oh, but I really want the Popeyes. I really want the Slurpees, or I really want my treats. Sorry, this is a day where Jewish people are sad. Doesn't know what that means, so obviously he's not obligated, but we try to train them a little bit to participate with the community. So no ice cream. I know I'm a tough rabbi here, but no ice cream on the fast days. I got to draw the line somewhere. And you know, for me to say no ice cream is pretty severe, pretty severe. Obviously, soldiers who are, on duty and, doing operations, they have to eat to be strong. But the soldiers who are not on duty, who are just training, they fast. Unless they have to go, actively do an operation. Okay, what do we do on the fast day other than fast? There's a special prayer inserted. Turn to page 142, please. 142, 143. All right, moving right along. Israel, how are you today? Where were you for Shabbat?
Here.
In the Machon? Friday in the Machon, yeah. And Shabbat? You went to the Kotel. And where did you eat? Yeah, nice. Wow. It was an out Shabbat, no? Or was it an in Shabbat? It was an out Shabbat, out Shabbat. Shmuel, so you were out. You were in Talpiot? I don't know. Where do you, yeah. Zachariah?
That was it.
You were here.
Whole time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Takes a while to find the network of people to go to on Shabbat. Sometimes it's good to make friends with the Israelis because they have a home to go to. They'll invite you over to their house, but okay. And Yosef?
We went to Rav Moshe Kaplan's house in Judaism, and it was very nice.
Oh, for both meals or just one?
Just one meal. Me and my brother and his family.
Oh, and his family. Oh, sweet. Okay. You have a brother here in the neighborhood. Not bad. Not far. It's
like 8 minutes walk.
8-minute walk. Pretty good. Wow. Steven, do you have a brother? No brother.
You have a lot.
Ah, sweet. But you were home in Kiryat Yovel?
Yes.
Nice. What day is today?
In
Yom Rishon. And tomorrow is Yom Sheni. All day. Let's talk tomorrow, 12:15, okay? Sounds good? We'll have a chat?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Where were you for Shabbat?
At Rabbi Yosef Wise's house in Tel Aviv.
Okay.
It's the Thrive program there.
Thrive?
Yeah, it's like a
Okay.
strong campus.
And how was that?
It was nice.
Are you in Tel Aviv University?
Yes.
So you could walk there?
I could walk there.
Nice.
It's very nice. I used to go to Rabbi Etan, Philip's house, but he's abroad now for the next few weeks. So.
Okay. Great. So you ate the rabbi's both meals or just one?
Yes, both meals.
And you walked home to sleep?
Yes.
Nice. Those rabbis are very generous.
They're very nice.
You were by your uncle?
Yeah.
Kids are nice. They had time to hang out.
Right?
You slept a lot.
Yeah, I went to shul.
Okay.
And then right when I got home, I had Kiddush, tried herring, really good. Then the whiskey, and I knocked out until 5:30.
Oh my gosh. How much little whiskey did you have? Is what I want to know. Really? Okay. Wow, Shabbat. It's good. All right. Yeah.
when you say little, is it like this little?
No. I like to have a whiskey for my kiddush on Shabbos morning as well. But this week I didn't. For some reason, I couldn't find my regular shot glass that I like to have. I just went with the wine. Wine is better anyways, ideally, for Kiddush. So I had wine. But I didn't have my usual whiskey. I have to make it up. We're watching my grandson tonight. So after I chase him around the house for a couple of hours, maybe I'll have a whiskey. We'll see. No, he's a cute kid. Baruch Hashem. 3-year-old. Yeah, it's very sweet. Binyamin, did you go to Yechiel's house for both meals? Or? Wow, amazing. So nice. It's so nice. So nice. Yeah, it's another student here, Machon Meir. You haven't met him. Yechiel Zibrishin. He wears suspenders. You've seen him around a little bit. He's in a different class, goes to the Gemara class. But anyways, he lives near Binyamin, and they have meals together. Lovely. Yafeh. So yeah, I had my grandson over.
He's my keeper.
The keeper. Woo! Oh, very good. Very good. All right. It's good to have a keeper. Let's continue. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I had my regular chavruta this Shabbat. Every once a week I have a chavruta. You guys even know who I learn with. In Tekoa. Who do I learn with? Every Shabbat afternoon when we're both there. Rabbi Weinstein. That's right. So we had a chavruta. Yeah. Okay, next. The Anenu prayer is page 142. I'd like everybody to open up a Siddur, actually, so we know what we're talking about. There's one behind you. Yosef's getting them for you. Turn to page 180 and 181. You're going to have to keep your finger there because I'm going to ask you to open up another page as well. The books actually have these, see these, what are these called? Yeah, threads, I don't know. Anyways, put one there, 180, 181, and also open up to page 294, 295. That's going to be the other marker, the blue marker and the red marker, or bookmark, whatever it is, the ribbons. Now pay attention, because you find the same prayer in two places. It's in between the lines. In both pages, it's in between the lines. Let's take a look, for example, on page 294. Everybody have 294?
Yeah.
And there's a star underneath the line. And Avi, you want to read for us at this point?
For you listen with compassion to the prayer in your people.
Oh, there's another star underneath the line. Same page, just underneath the line, there's a small letters, and it says, at this point.
At this point on Fast days, the congregation has answered us below in times of drought in Israel and answer us.
Okay, so we're not in times of drought. We're just looking at the first line. The first line says, on fast days, congregation adds, answer us. Answer us in Hebrew is Aneinu. Okay, but you got to say it like you're feeling it. Aneinu.